Hailing frequencies are open. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Last Excelsior, our Star Trek Adventures live play here with the StreamPunks. I'm going to kick things off fast tonight, get some announcements out of the way. First off the top, I just want to give a quick announcement that this is a big week for me. I have a comic book coming out this Wednesday. Stranger Things, The Rise of Hellfire, the backstory of one Eddie Munson, is releasing this Wednesday from Dark Horse Comics. I hope you enjoy it. There are 4 variant covers. I'm going to get them all. Of course, it turns out that Dark Horse is kind enough to send us comp copies, but whatever. I'm going to still buy them all because, damn it, I love it. I wrote that with a co-writer woman named Jody Hauser, and she was gracious enough to allow me to come right alongside her for this. So definitely check it out. That's going to be coming out this Wednesday. That was the only announcement I had. I wanted to make sure I get that out of the way. Anybody else got any announcements tonight before we kick off tonight's story of the USS Pride? Yeah, Noir.
Hey, I'm just coming from our Black History Month game that we ran over on my channel. I promise it'll be on the YouTubes tomorrow. It had Laura Tutu as Blade, Black Nito as T'Challa, Fluffy Goomba, the Mad Dr. Rob as original characters, and AJ, who's your kid, as an original character as well. It was so much fun. Trigger warning, this was a game for the culture, so we weren't tone policing at all. There was none of that, but it's still a good time. So if you ever want to know what it was like inside a black barbershop, you should check out the game tomorrow.
Yes! Oh, that's so good.
This one was for us. It wasn't for charity, so we were just wilding out. We said it 66 times. There's a count.
There's a count? Oh my god. That is good.
There are words in the Marvel Discord that I learned today that I will not share with anyone.
I gotta do some back scrolling, apparently. Out of the loop.
Cloak showed up with Dagger, and let's just say there was a reaction.
Oh, I know exactly the term.
Oh, dear.
Oh, no.
Oh, my.
But that's my...
All right, well. Thank you, Noir. I believe you've got another game coming up next Monday, too, don't you?
Oh, that's right. I need to keep better track of these. So we'll be back with StreamPunks Presents Noir, and we left at a pretty dope spot. Like, I highly recommend checking out the previous episode because we got to see Bleer have a speed feat that is absolutely ridiculous, and we can tell you that it's accurate because Sam did the math and the science live as we did it. We measured the speed of Bleer versus the amount of time it takes for C4 to erupt, which
26,400 feet per second.
As you just gotta let them have that one. Like, when they do the science, you give them the points.
All right. Thank you, Noir. Anybody else have anything else they'd like to put out there for Aux Crew or anybody else to hear? Anybody got anything coming up?
I mean, as always, check out Lost Omen and Divine Mysteries. You can see the words I've written and the lore I've had a part in creating. But yeah, that's honestly pretty much it. I'm in a D&D campaign on Saturdays at I think 5 p.m. Pacific. I'm very bad at time zones. I just know it's 1 a.m. my time.
We all are.
That's all I remember. So you can check that out over on Sirfeffers. It's SIRFEFFERS _ on Twitch, where I play a warlock. We're playing with the 2024 rules. So I'm playing a warlock paladin right now, because playing a straight paladin with the 2024 rules isn't powerful enough, because
they broke us.
So I buffed it up with the much more powerful warlock there, so you can check me out there. But yeah, that's it.
All right. I think that's everything for tonight then. Let's, with that, go ahead and jump into tonight's episode of The Last Excelsior. Welcome back to the Last Excelsior. We're going to go ahead and jump back into where we left off, which was on Starbase 16. The USS Pride is currently undergoing a lot of repair work right now. She has at least a couple of weeks of getting some repair jobs done to her hull, internal systems, et cetera, et cetera. They're working on her right now. And in the meantime, the crew has been finding ways of finding the time, but also be productive and maybe even do a little investigating on things that are happening. The Pride has been in a state of upgrade. As you all know, that the Pride is basically a little over 80 plus years old. A lot of her systems that they're being worked through right now and repaired are, it's discovered that this is an excellent opportunity to find some of the things in the system that probably did not get the upgrade they needed before she headed back out for her final mission. Status reports are coming in all the time to senior staff, letting you guys know what the current status of the repair work is done. But just as your chief engineer Pavin has told you, she needs a lot of work right now. A lot of microfractures in the hull that are being repaired, a lot of issues with a few of the major systems, unfortunately. But for the most part, nothing that can't be dealt with here in Space Dock, nothing you're going to have to send away for parts for necessarily. So a quick reminder, she has damage to her primary and secondary plasma coolant assembly, which is a huge job. Then there's damage to the primary deflector control, damage to primary and secondary hulls, which is why you had a hull breach at one point, damage to auxiliary thermal conversion injector system, damage to the torpedo bay, damage and microfractures all along the primary hull. She is currently finishing a full diagnostic and damage control setup. That has taken 4 days alone here at Starbase. And is currently, right now, the process, as a quick reminder, is looking at being sped up via using worker bee automation, thanks to a link up with a certain probe that was usually used with Griffin's Wing in order to enhance mission profile of the Griffin Wing. Right now, however, though, Peaches is being linked up and upgraded as it's discovered that Peaches can actually coordinate some of the worker bees to streamline and even speed up the repairs done to the primary hull with those microfractures in place. But that's not the only thing that happened. There was an encounter with a Bajoran priest. There was some discussions about mind melding. There were discussions. We wrapped up last episode where at that particular moment, Cadence had decided to kind of casually inquire to your good friend, your good Klingon friend, about maybe a certain Klingon captain that you've all come across recently, trying to find out if maybe Chalk knew anything about this Klingon colonel that you had all run into before, to find out maybe if there was some data to be there. Now, he didn't know anything about this Colonel Vacross, but he did know somebody who might know a thing or two. Who he returned with, though, is not the person he intended on asking. Instead, he returned with another friend of his that happened to be on Starbase 16. And you all, when we last left off, met Valia Farron, an Elorian who claims to be familiar with this Klingon captain and is certain that she knew her at one point. So, in the interest of picking up where we left off with the previous episode, I'm going to go ahead and put us back at the 6-1 Club, where everyone is sat down to hear what Valia has to say about this captain. You have a table pretty much in the same space where you had before, towards the very back great wall of the observation port, where there are telescopes and game tables available. At this particular hour of Starbase 16, there's not a lot of activity here on the main promenade deck, so you have some privacy back here. A few of the holographic servers delivering drinks. You're not too worried about them giving your conversations away. But you're all sitting there. Chalk is sort of paying attention. He's much more interested in this strange earth drink that he has that has shrimp coming off the side of it. He's looking at it kind of curiously, and he bites into it and just sets the drink aside and pulls all the shrimp off of it and just starts eating a fistful of it, crunching the tails and everything before slurping it down. Valia leans across the table and smiles at the server at the same time as she takes her drink. A strange blue mixture. She sets it down next to her and says, "So, this is going to be a little vague, and I'm sorry I can't do better, but Chalk had reached out to me and mentioned that you were looking for this Klingon captain. It was more of like a passing conversational note when you were telling me about the friends that you had. It's not important. The point is that Chalk was telling me about this, and something felt wrong about this. Something felt off. So Chalk and I decided together to use his access to the KDF and see if we can't find out more about this Colonel Lacrosse." Chalk slurps down the last piece of shrimp and just says, "Still have my access codes. Klingon security lacks these days." Yes, well, anyway, we looked up all the information we could and discovered that there is no mention of anyone from a house that this Lacrosse you said claimed she was a part of. So we did some digging to find out if we could just find a Lacrosse. And there were about maybe 60 or 70 or so in the system. Most of them had passed away decades ago. It seems to be an uncommon name for Klingon women, but the last Lacrosse that we came across was an older woman who died somewhere, I guess, about 30 years ago. 35 years ago. Starts to sip the drink. She wasn't related to any house. She wasn't a part of the warrior caste at all. So something wasn't sitting right with me about this, because I don't know how to explain this, but I think I know her. And every fiber in my being tells me that this is somehow wrong. That she should be on that database, and she's not. So, not really knowing what to do next, I asked Chalk here to take me to you and connect with you directly to find out if I could learn more from you about her and your experiences with her. Was she the captain of a warship?
Yeah, Borgia class. Why?
That's something I remembered.
She had a knife. Does that help?
Not unless I can see it.
Caden, can we just say Caden's has it on him?
You can if you are willing to spend threat to gain momentum.
Fine. No, we have one momentum.
You have one momentum? Oh, because you started the game with 0, right?
Close-knit crew.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So 1 momentum, yes, you can burn that to make it true. So it just so happens, since you were planning on asking Chalk questions about Lacrosse anyway, that you thought to bring along the Dick Talk. You did show it to him earlier, so you set it down on the table. She looks over at it, and she's about to say something to Chalk, and Chalk says, "I've never seen that before." Okay, she looks at it.
I showed it to you not too long ago.
No, I mean, I've never seen that house before. I don't know the house. The symbol there denotes the house. And he points at the hilt and says, "You see it there?" And Valia nods and says, yes, I see it. I know I've seen it before. This is a Klingon house. I'm certain of it. This is a great Klingon house. Ha! Chalk laughs and says, "There's no possible way. Great Klingon houses never fall into obscurity, even when they are disbanded. Even when they are wiped from memory, it is always remembered that they existed, even though it's a bit of a contradiction. But the records always show who has been erased."
How would you know?
It's our way of keeping track of the dishonored, so that their children cannot find their way back into society.
But they'd be erased is the thing.
Think of them as cast out. There's a place to look for. I had not thought of that. Valia turns and says, thought of what? There is an archive with the dishonored. A place where those who are meant to be forgotten, disbanded, discarded from Klingon society, their names are kept there. Think of them like a place where you would wait before you are allowed into Grey Thor. I see. And how would we get access to that? He shakes his head. Any Klingon asking for access to that would sully their name. So it's like a vault of shame? Yes, vault of shame. That is what they should call it. He starts to drink his drink again, and Valia says, we need to find a way to find it, to cross-reference what we know about Vakros. I'm certain this is bigger than just her name being deleted from Klingon histories. But we have to be sure. I have to be sure about this. Yes. He leans over and says, why are you so enraptured by this? I thought you could be of help, but this seems to be important to you. And she nods and looks you dead in the eyes, Cadence, and she says, I know I've met her. I know I have. And it's being taken from my memory. But Elorians, it's not easy for us to forget.
So how can we help?
Chalk, I don't think you should have any part in this. If it's going to sully the name, you're already in enough trouble with your family. Chalk nods and says, that is true. And I wasn't going to help anyway. He pats her on the shoulder. Says, good. Well, that's settled then. So then how do we gain access to it? Question, I guess. Chalk, can you give us any more information instead of just that there's a list and we need to find it and it's a list we shouldn't touch? And he shrugs, I don't know much more about it. Just that you never want to be on such a thing. I don't know that it's even accurate to call it a list. It might just be a written record. You might have to go to Kronos for all I know. Are you serious? Of course. Why would you sully the databases? It's probably sealed in some scroll at the bottom of an ocean in a chest somewhere.
Cadence to Captain Jaren.
That's
Captain Jaren reporting.
Hey, do we have time for a field trip to Kronos?
Might I ask why?
I'll do you one better. If you come down to the mess, you can get briefed on it.
Give me 5.
He never gives units.
That's my secret.
Chalk nods. I respect that. A few moments later, entering into the bar, you all see Jaren approaching. Jaren, again, this is the 6-1 Club, the social hub of Starbase 16 here on the promenade. It's sectioned off. It's multiple stories, about 3 stories, 3 decks of this corner of the Starbase with a huge viewport looking out into space. You find your crew members with a few interesting guests that they're seated. The Klingon that was kind enough to rescue Griffin Wing. And you also notice there's somebody else sitting there, a young woman, well, young looking woman, I should say, with dark brown brunette hair spilling all over her shoulders. And she's wearing what could be just described as a very casual floral dress. She's obviously a civilian of some kind. She gives you a big, bright smile when you approach. The Klingon, on the other hand, takes him a second to pull himself away from the last slurps of what was probably a very spicy Bloody Mary before he sets it down.
Well, lovely to meet all of you, Commander.
Please, Captain, you remember Chalk, son of Gusto? And this is Valia, an Elorian who seems to have some memory. of our missing colonel.
Valia smiles and says, "Let me scooch." And she moves down the booth a little bit to give you some room to take a seat.
Squeezes right on in.
A holographic server immediately appears. "Hello, Captain. How can I help you today?"
Yes, one. What are they? Ginger ale, please.
One ginger ale. Disappears.
So, have you experienced memory alterations as well?
It seems it's a little different for Elarians, and I'll exposit what we have thus far real quickly.
Oh, okay.
As you're expositing, you glancing over and listening as Cadence is kind of filling you in on what they've spoken about. You see Valia is completely entranced by the diktak that's on the table. You see she's running her fingers over the handle and just staring at it. And when Cadence is done expositing, Valia speaks up and says, "I'm just not 100% sure it's memory. My memories, yes. I know that I met this woman, but I'm not sure that it's more than that. I don't know how to explain it. I'm struggling here. But there's something more going on."
If it is your memory, what else could it be?
Well, I'm not sure. It's difficult to say because all I'm working on right now is a feeling, an instinct. I don't have anything concrete to even back up what I'm saying, but every fiber of my being tells me something has happened, something is wrong here, and that I know I've met her face to face. It's not like me to forget. I know every face, every person I've ever come across.
Ugh, I don't envy you that.
If we work through the process of elimination and what you say is true, if you remember every face that you've ever met, what if the moment you met that person was removed? Would you still have a recollection or at least a feeling of having met that person?
Her eyes widen at the implications. Says, "Oh, I don't know. Maybe. I mean, depending on method." And I would say that I don't have any memory of that happening, but then that's a bit circular.
We do have a crew member who experienced something similar in the sense of remembering but not. They're not Elorian, but maybe their experience was similar to yours.
She nods. Says, "Okay, that might be a good place to connect and start with." Chalk.
Mrs. Caitlin didn't realize that the entire
Mhm.
crew wasn't here, so I'm going
Yeah.
to introduce Tan into the scene, please.
Okay,
Commander Tan, are you free at the moment?
Yes, Commander Salinas. Where can I find you? I'll be there soon.
We're at 6-1. There's someone we'd like you to meet. Maybe a piece to the puzzle.
Okay, give me 5 minutes. I'll be there.
Name.
It is indeed.
Hey, Cadence is a Vulcan name too, huh?
Yes. But your Cadence.
Can't argue that.
He stuffs what looks like a few of the escaped shells from some of the shrimp that he ate, and as soon as the server comes back with the ginger ale, he goes, "Another." Very well. Server leaves again, and he says, "Holodeck. Do you not have a holodeck on your antique of a ship? Did they install one?"
Oh, we do have one. It's a very formidable holodeck as well. Jared is just kind of idly twirling the straw in his cup.
Beautiful, slightly amber colored liquid of the ginger ale just kind of bubbling around in your glass.
Pardon, I hope you don't mind my asking. I'm unfamiliar with the abilities of Allurians.
Valia smiles and she says, "Is this you asking?"
Yes, but I'd like to tell you why I'm asking, if that might
Of course.
help answer the question.
Sure. Anything I can do.
Commander Cadence here was recently had a moment very much the same that you're describing, in which their memory was altered, but in coming in contact with something was able to regain those lost memories. Is that correct, Commander?
Yeah, it's about shape of it.
I don't know the method in which these memories were recalled, but I do know that the amount of lost information was drastic. I have no reason not to take you at your word about the abilities that you've so far shared with us. Perhaps coming in contact with that same material may resolve your memory erasure the same as it did for our commander here.
Oh yeah, you want to see some weird particles?
Valia gives you the smile that only DeVivo could give you and says, "Yeah, that sounds good. Particles? I'm up for particles."
They're variant.
At this point, Tayan walks in. Oh, Captain, Commander Cadence.
The Klingon goes, "Hello, new Vulcan friend. Or is this just goodbye?"
Hello.
Holodeck, he says again.
We're going.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to the holodeck.
Hello, Commander Tehan. I'm Valia. Sorry to be interrupted in the middle of our introduction. What are you going on about? And she turns to Chalk, and Chalk says, "Cadence has seen this woman. Have Cadence give descriptions to computer. Again, create a face, create a reconstruction of this woman on holodeck. See if you recognize her. Cadence isn't the brightest person in the galaxy, but I'm sure they'll have something to offer that's not immediately connected to flying a ship."
I'm gonna flick some water off my straw at him and say, "Takes one to know one."
Yes, Klingon's sense of smell cannot be underestimated, and we can smell our own. Took too long to get to the joke, I'm afraid. Better luck next time, Chuck. Is there alcohol in this? No, she says. This is just you being Chalk right now. Hello to Aeon. It's lovely to meet you. And both this variant particle and holodeck idea, I'm up for all of it. Whatever you all wish to do. Anything we can do to get to the bottom of this. And Aeon, they brought you here because I am also having something of a sense memory connected to this. And she motions to the Tach.
When I look down at the I'm gonna butcher this pronunciation. When I look down at the knife,
The Klingon knife. That works.
yeah. Do I feel any? Do I get anything from that, or is it? Am I just running off of what I expect from my mouth? Okay.
No, it looks like an older knife. It's Klingon diktoks are usually, depending on who it is, it belongs to. If it was given to somebody by a high-ranking officer, it'll almost always have a house logo on it, a symbol of the house, and even it might even denote whose it belonged to. This has a house symbol on it that your encyclopedic Vulcan mind as a security officer immediately does not recognize.
I can't say that I recognize the knife, but I did have, and I still do have the memory of a memory, something fading, has faded, but I can feel it there.
Valia nods and says, I see why they asked you to show up as well then. That's almost exactly the same words that I just used when they were asking me about this Klingon colonel.
Oh, yes. Well, Commander Tavine and I tried to mind meld to see if we could pull that memory, see if we can bring it into focus. But it went awry, more than I think most first mind melds probably should. In the sense that it felt like something or someone else was intervening.
Maybe you see she steadies herself for a minute and says, maybe you need more than one sample then. Maybe you need more than one. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe to understand, to confirm, you should try mind melding on me. If I've had the same experience, then it's possible you might be able to see the same thing and then maybe get a confirmation.
I would look to Tavine when
I
it
think
says that.
she kind of like has been mostly listening up until now, and like as soon as this is directed at her, she kind of gets like to Cadence, probably like eyes the size of saucers, like, but to everyone else, like just like a slight like like a huh. But you can tell there is clear surprise. I suppose.
You don't. The last time we did it, it was, like I said, not ideal. So don't have to. We can go with the holodeck. I don't want to put you in danger.
Look,
It can be
none
a
of them take
backup
much to
plan.
describe things, and if that doesn't work, yeah, you can all brain around.
I would need time to prepare more, I think, this time, regardless, so other avenues can be taken as the first path.
Let's see that then.
I would recommend taking other paths first. Who knows? We might be able to find the reason Cadence was able to recall their memories and replicate that for ourselves.
It was because all these neurons are gloriously underutilized, right, Chalk?
Chalk just nods as he's already starting to pull the shrimp off the new cup that's been delivered to him. And he says, you're not very smart when you're not in the pilot's seat, I admit.
That's my secret. Not smart in the pilot's seat either. I'm going to get right on that. So, it's been real. Lovely to meet you. I'll see you later, Chalk.
I think I'll go with you. And uninvited, Chalk slides his way out of the booth.
You can't bring that on the ship, looking at the shrimp thing.
He immediately balls it into his fist and shoves it into his mouth.
Such a lady.
And then he downs the rest of it in about 4 gulps and sets it down. What is Tabasco?
Oh, well, my friend.
I'm going to let our engineers know that we'll be making a visit to the Pride and prepare them to expect us. Pleasure meeting all of you. If you need anything, I am only a combat away.
Nice meeting you.
And yeah, he's going to go deal with letting them know we're hopping on the ship to do the science.
You keep in mind that the Pride is not ready for another 2 weeks, so doesn't mean you can't find a ride. But yeah.
Oh no, we're headed to the engineering bay to look at the
Copy that.
The hull. What was it? A hull
Holodeck.
piece?
No,
there's a hull piece.
Oh, the whole piece. We're going to
Yeah.
the whole piece.
Yeah. It's
that triggered Cadence memories.
That is where Kira's going.
Did you want Valia to go with you, or are you all going right now? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can all go now.
Yeah, let's do that. So let's do
Valia will
that. We
follow
Cadence
you.
is to the holodeck, and then other folks are
And
going
Chalk
to the
follows
variant
you.
particles with Valia.
All right, so cut to we'll do Cadence and Chalk first. You guys beaming over to the USS Pride. The corridors of the Pride are a little. It's a ghost town. Most of the crew is finishing their shifts on the Pride and then beaming back to Starbase 16. Those who aren't staying in their quarters here, mostly because some of the hull has been compromised, where some of the crew has been stationed and needs to be repaired. In truth, the plasma injection assembly really is requiring multiple engineering crews to get inside the Pride and start reworking the distribution of power in the entire ship, which is technically a months-long job, but thankfully it's not a months-long worth of damage. When you guys are walking down the corridors, it does feel oddly empty in here. And it gives you, Cadence, a snapshot of what this place probably looked like before she was dragged out of mothballs. It kind of foretells her future after this mission. These empty corridors. Hard to imagine without Starfleet officers walking through it. All the things these walls have seen. But Chalk seems quite pleased as he's glancing around and says, "This ship flew when my father was in the KDF, and the Federation was the enemy of the Klingon Empire. Back before the days of the Khitomer Accord." He pats the wall. "Many warriors may have died at the hands of this battleship."
True. We still, of course, celebrate them.
He nods.
I'm glad we're on this side of the Khitomer Accords, though. I wouldn't want you to fly against me.
I appreciate you having concerns about me growing bored at the stick, but I assure you, it would be mildly entertaining before I sent you on your way into what is your afterlife that you have?
Hadn't really crossed my mind.
He smiles
Not going
at that.
there anytime soon. But I assure you, it'd be a blast.
You were the only pilot I ever flew against that was worthy of a dogfight, as you call them. Those were good times. And bad times, he says with a bit of a growl. Many of my fellows would not see it that way. Of course, many of the Klingons like to forget how much they were not enjoying the war once we began to lose terribly.
Yeah, funny how it isn't nearly as fun when you aren't winning. But we had some of our best flights with our back to the wall.
Agreed. And though I was a proud supporter, I was not sad to hear of Gowron's death, and I could not help but notice how the fortunes of the Klingon Empire began to change once he died. Can you imagine, though? I often think of it, as it's told, what would have the Klingon Empire become had Worf taken the mantle of the High Chancellor?
Oh, prune juice everywhere.
That's right, he liked that earth drink, didn't he? I should have to try this prune juice. Right
Don't.
now, this... He looks at you a little surprised and says, He nods, like he's taking your warning to heart. You guys arrive at the door of the holodeck. He says, I enjoy Martok, though. The best of what Worf has to offer, but more of the Klingon. Do not tell anyone I said that. He waits for you to activate the holodeck.
And here I was going to tell my very bestie, the commander. Activates.
I do not want it to sound as though I am talking ill of... He stops as he looks at this place and says, I have never seen the inside of a holodeck before. Glancing about. We do not have them on Klingon vessels. We should, but we do
We
not.
were on plenty of star bases for shore leave. You never came into one of these?
No. When we were on Starbase shore leave, I was sleeping or eating. The things you do when you are ready for preparing yourself for battle. not
Oh.
doing whatever it is you Federation do in here. As he looks around the room.
I guess we all have our rituals.
Show me how this inferno machine works.
I will demonstrate the infernal machine.
Okay. You basically call forth the form of a female officer and start laying in the descriptions as you remember her as best to your abilities. In which case, I'm going to call for a roll to see roughly how accurate Cadence gets to remembering this Klingon officer.
Is this a new scene? Because
It is a new scene.
Okay, does that new scene we had 0? So
Oh wow!
you could have.
I'll have the momentum.
You can have momentum if you want.
Rules lawyer attorney, it rules.
Well, quick question: is it the start of a new scene or at the start of a new session?
New scene.
Scene? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it just doesn't come up very often because you know.
We often have momentum.
All right. So
whatever you want to roll here is going to be relevant to like the attribute you're going to be rolling is definitely insight, but your department will really determine what features you focus the most on. What do you remember the most about? Like, what do you want to know about her specifically? So if you said medicine, it might be a scar that she had. If you say science, it could be something like you heard her say something on the bridge and it gives you an idea of how her voice sounded. Or command, you know what I mean? Go on from there. If it's security, it's her how muscly was she? What was her stance like? That kind of thing.
And what about? Oh, I don't know. Just I mean,
Con.
just hypothetically, what about Con? Yeah.
Con would probably tell you a little bit about her discipline, like how procedural she was when she was giving orders, how well she knew her ship, perhaps how exact she was. Con is usually linked to precision.
Yep.
Which you would know because you would be dead if it weren't.
I mean, sure, but
Pulling the
some of
nonsense
us
you pull.
do a little bit of falling with style every so often, you know?
Right. Yeah, because Con's not just helm operations. It encompasses all sorts of
Ship operation.
variations. Yeah.
I did pay a lot of attention to her ship.
That's true. Yes. You did pay a lot of attention to her ship.
I made a bunch of checks about the ship. So let's say this. What if I don't just build her out? Because I'm probably gonna, like, realistically, I'm gonna remember the ship better than the person because I will have focused on a ship more. And maybe, you know, the environment, you know, sometimes you get memories activated from being in a place. Maybe that'd be helpful to, what was her name, the Elorian?
Oh, the Elorian? Wait, you mean Valia? Valia?
Oh, Valia. Yeah, I forgot.
If you want to, this is a really curious. This is one of those things where you can get really creative with how you use departments and attributes. Insight and Con would be judging the nature of the intent of another vessel by the way it was moving or determining the source of a problem of a familiar vessel. So you might be able to roll Insight Con. You would learn more about the ship she was on than her personally. You might be able to learn a little bit about how she was, some of the choices that she was making in her moment of command, which could kind of tip you off to an overview of her personality. Like, is she?
Because I clocked her bridge layout specifically, like when she went over to that one guy and talked to him.
How she treated her crew. I mean, that's kind of like angling a little bit into Presence Con, but yes.
I mean, I can take Presence Con. I'm fine with Presence Con. Presence
Con is maintaining professional decorum and etiquette, representing your ship and Starfleet, and so on and so forth. But if you did Insight,
Isn't insight is like I think we talked about this once. Insight is like really like internal. That's your like wisdom stat about people.
Insight is understanding people and their feelings and being open to different ideas, being conscious of another creature's current state of mind, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So it's like all people, emotional, like understanding people. So if they're trying to pull insight, not literally insight, from like the ship itself, would they be able to pull like a reason or something, or control, or like a another stat? I guess maybe not reason specifically, but like
a reason for the memory and the sharpness of that. Control maybe for the capacity to describe, like that gives you, like, it's one thing to have the thing in your head, it's another to make the mouth words go burr. That's why I leave describing scenery to the professional sceneryman. Hello, Eric.
Hi. Yeah, so whichever one you want to roll, and I'll feed you information based off of its relevancy to what you're trying to remember.
All right, I'm going to take my close-knit momentum, and I'm going to roll a control con.
Control con it is.
What's the difficulty?
The difficulty of this? Difficulty of this is going to be 4.
Oh, cool. That's a reason. That's a reasonable number. This is great. Great. This is good. Okay, well.
You can give me threat to gain more momentum.
Sure. I couldn't do too much of these. I'm already spending for the 3rd die. I could give you like a 2 for an extra die, but
you get any assists from the holodeck or the Pride itself, or is that only like
no on this one? Yeah, on this one, because the computer literally has no database to pull from.
Yeah, that's
can't
fair.
really assist. Yeah.
Since we're doing things about the ship, would you give me flight control systems, since I was on the bridge, and that's probably what I'm reconstructing.
No, I think that's a bit of a stretch, but I'm also reconsidering what I just told Caitlin, because based off of my personal experiences of watching how good computers particularly have gotten anticipating where you're going with a thing and offering you options, I think it actually makes sense if the Pride assists here. Just from what we are witnessing with AI and how it is able to adapt to what you're trying to pull up. I'm just going to say that the computer of the USS Pride is going to propose options that might appeal. I'm going to go ahead and let the Pride assist. I feel like that is completely relevant here.
So just really quickly looking at page 92, and we're past it. We're probably looking at if this happens again, a security reason. Security reason on 92 says to identify the participants of a battle by studying the aftermath or devising a plan of dangerous situation, be it combat, wilderness, survival, infiltration, some combination thereof. So like to recall something or figure something out, that's going to be security reason.
Well, I would go a step further and say to recall something that is pertinent to security and reasoning, as it states there, participation in a battle, studying the aftermath, devising a plan, dangerous situation, but in combat, wilderness, survival. I would say if you were trying to use reason security to do a recall about her, then I would probably have that represent you remember her state of mind and like what her motivations were and what her priorities were when she was giving orders as pertaining to feeling threatened by the USS Pride, as pertaining to preparing for battle with the USS Pride, because for a hot minute there, because remember, Cadence, you were her bluff got called. She was acting like she was going to knife you, and she didn't. That could
she also almost blew up a station. That was fun.
Right. So the reason security check might give you insight into her state of mind as to when that particular moment was happening. But it would need to relate to battle or strategy or the aftermath of a battle or devising of a plan or that kind of thing. But that too, yes, 100%, as Noir said, could provide insight on that.
I mean, that sounds great. I totally hear that.
Sure.
But Noir.
Con, you want your con roll?
I don't roll as well there.
Oh no, I was
this
just
is
curious.
difficulty 4, BT dubs. Who wants to roll Pride?
I can take it.
Caitlin fought for the case.
I fought so hard.
But I am going to award myself a point of threat if you don't say it.
I'm going to. I'm just looking
just-
for which character
I
sheet
want
is
you
the
to know that
most
there
recent
is a
one.
cliff now where I'm going to award myself a point of threat. If you guys
Do we
don't
get
see
momentum if we say it?
it?
I think
Equal and
we
opposite.
will.
No, you guys generate
No,
momentum.
we can't do this because then I will give him then I won't say it because I'll want to be contrarian.
Yeah, because we're stream punks and you're going to be punk rock and defy the fuck out of your GM, and then I'll just award all the threat, and then that's of course the point.
Right, but I want to say the thing is the problem.
Fair. Okay.
2 questions. Is the Pride sheet the one from August the latest one? And also what am I rolling for the Pride?
Hold on, I have to check the file date because
Yeah,
I don't have that information.
I'm in poster
9/8/24 is the most recent one.
9/8? Where is that posted?
Okay, let me put that in.
Sorry.
Discord.
I'm in the
Some of
poster
y'all-
sheets channel.
Some of y'all hadn't been keeping up. Let me just post this right here.
This is the one in the Discord. That's the one I'm looking at.
Okay, well then I'm talking about me in that case. There. That's 9/8. This is the most recent one that I have.
Beautiful.
And y'all, no experience points I've seen that have been spent on upping the Pride yet. So that should be the most up-to-date version.
I do believe that I did upgrade the Pride. I gave it a different mission profile. I believe it's a Hope vessel now as well.
Oh, that's right. We talked about that. Yeah. Okay, we'll get into that. Yeah, that makes sense because y'all were doing a lot of running of medical supplies and such. So that actually makes a lot of sense. But yeah.
So what?
So what systems do you want to roll here? It's going to be computers and engineering for this, which is what the Pride does.
Here we go.
Oh,
Roll
really
Pride.
well.
Computers not so
Legend
great, but
cool
definitely she is an engineering ship. Did you roll
Rolled a
two?
one.
You rolled a one. Okay. Okay.
That gets us 5 successes then.
5
I got
successes.
3 on my 3.
So you get 1 momentum.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you, team.
Let's go.
Your excitement begins to build as you continue giving updates. A little bit shorter, wider shoulders as you continue to like update this image of this Klingon in front of you. Every now and then Chalk chimes in and says, no, Klingon armor doesn't look like that for women anymore. Get rid of this. Breast windows make no sense. And he has that, he immediately deletes that from this, the profile, and says, your Federation databases are far out of date. And then with a few modifications, you continue to build out this detailed recreation. And when you're done, Cadence, your breath almost catches because it feels like she's standing in front of you. It's close enough that you can hear her voice. You can remember her presence when she walked into the transporter room and declared herself. That she had a Targ with her too, if you remember correctly, one that was limping. That was something you had forgotten. But the crew also comes to mind. Something about the crew and the way they behaved you took note of, but that's slipping from memory. But that face that you have looking back at you, you're pretty sure that's close enough. Chalk is looking at it and saying, strong looking captain. Never seen her myself at all the Klingon meetings.
Yeah, all those. You'll have to remind me when the next one is. I was figuring maybe I could show up.
If you plan on going to Kronos.
Oh, that's not up to me. That's up to my captain. I should let him know that we have this.
Okay. Meanwhile, on the other side of the vessel, down in the main cargo bay, where Griffin Wing is currently undergoing some maintenance as well, Peregrines are being slowly upgraded and put back together again after their encounter with the singularity that was being hurled through space. When you guys walk out into the main deck, you see Valia is absolutely enraptured as she steps out into the main cargo bay and just looks around and she goes, wow, I haven't stepped onto the decks of an Excelsior class starship in, Well, I guess it must have been at least 85 years.
You would have seen them newer.
She nods briefly. But yes, they weren't refit like this one. They were the original Excelsior class before the refits. It's pretty amazing, though. I never got to go inside the cargo bay. We were in quarters, very brief amount of time. What's this thing you wanted to show me?
Yes. Right this way. Jared is going to lead the party to where the hull piece is.
Okay.
Tavina's only a little visibly disappointed that she didn't get to hear more about the original Excelsior classes. Somebody who was
Yeah. The hull piece is in an area that has been sectioned off. You see that it has basically these holographic bands of blue light going around it, almost like tape, letting personnel know not to come anywhere near it. It's got about a 30-foot perimeter around it. Come walking up to it, there it is in all of its glory, this gnarled, twisted, hulking, greenish plate that looks like it's been peeled back, and it looks porous, like it's just been pelted and ripped up. She looks at it and says, "Wow, what is that?" It just looks like huge piece of metal.
Yeah. Well, this apparently is the material that'll reawaken the memories from Commander Cadence. So Jared is going to walk past the crime scene tape.
It's holographics. You just step through it.
Yeah. And he's going to be hesitant at first, whisper a prayer, and then I think he's just going to touch it himself and see.
And the metal is cold. You run your hands over it. This thing was lingering in space for who knows how long. You do know that it was part of a Klingon hull, but you don't know too much more about that. There's no immediate effect as you touch it. You don't feel any feedback or any kind of psychic connection. There's no immediate flood of memories. For all intents and purposes, as you run your hands across it, Captain, the only thing that you remember is the early chaotic days of your captaincy, just little over a month ago, where you were all attacked by a ghost bird of prey.
Are there any monitors or like hollow screens in here that we could pull up like the information we have about the chronoton particles and stuff? I want to like be able to show Valia what we're dealing with.
Yes, in fact, there is a computer console that has a constant monitoring of the item. So as you stride up to it, you can see that it looks like it is in a diagnostic cycle that runs every few hours, where it's constantly doing a procedural scan. Moving over,
pull it up to just basically have like on screen the like bare bones and motion to it for Valia so that she knows what she's getting into. This is what we know about it so far, but we're still learning.
Make me a reason science check.
Okay.
The difficulty is 1. Oh, no, actually, the difficulty of this would be 0.
Okay.
Good. That's a good difficulty for my sister's reason science check.
For my reason science check, yeah, which is... Yeah.
Diff 0.
Oh! Okay, what am I... I may have a crit. I just don't know if I have any of my focuses would apply.
I don't think any of your focuses would apply here.
Probably not. Okay.
Yeah.
Unless subspace theory.
No, would not apply.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's 2 successes, a 10 and a 3. I needed an 11.
Momentum into the pool.
Or 12.
You're basically just reading the readout, the scientific readout of the scans. Yeah. And you notice that Vulcan mind of yours, noticing in the data sets, you notice that there is a slight degradation to the anti-chronoton variant particles. In other words, you are seeing degradation, like they're dropping.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, where are they going? That's a question, but it looks like the computer is reading marginal drops in the amount of these anti-chronotons that are present.
So I think she drops off mid-introduction and... Captain, has this been brought to your attention?
What?
The degradation of the variant particles. The levels are dropping here, and she'll kind of point to the segments, I suppose, where it seems to be deteriorating.
Are you able to recall the Are we able to recall the levels on the day that Commander Cadence interacted with it?
There's a log of every scan that the Pride has done from the day you guys had it to current moment. The computer is logging a 14% drop.
I would like to run a comparison of the device in its state now versus that day. I would like to collect the differences to see what might have changed from today to then. And I think Jared there is some like he was hoping to get his memory back. So I would like to use the rally ability if I could.
You might be able to. What would it be for? How would this manifest?
He's gonna be open with his team, saying this experience has caused us all trauma, but I'm very proud of his crew member for finding the degradation being the cause, and through that discovery we may be able to replicate the phenomenon that occurred with Cadence and restore all of our memory. It is just essentially giving his crew their praise for their work in this moment.
Okay. And what are you planning on using? So the rally will give you more momentum, right? To basically,
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, and then is it immediate spend momentum for a roll?
No,
Oh,
we
okay.
just have to keep it.
It's just however many successes you roll, right? I think.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I roll command presence, and it's on a difficulty 0, and we get to keep all the successes that I get. Presence.
Currently have 3, unless are these tandem scenes with the holodeck, or is this a new scene?
This is a new scene.
New scene. Okay, so we have 2 momentum.
Alrighty, that is going to be. I'd like to argue for using a focus here because that'll give us one more. And the focus is going to be team dynamics or inspiration.
Inspiration feels like that's what you're trying
and that will give us a total of 4 momentum.
That maxes us out then.
Since you're using the rally command ability, it would make sense that team dynamics would apply.
Gotcha.
I think that's just an automatic. I would say that's just kind of like an automatic plug-in of just juicing. I would say Modifus is kind of baked into the rules, just a way to supercharge your momentum pool with that. It's another reason why the command role is so powerful for captains and commanders. But yeah.
So we're maxed.
All
we
right.
have 6.
6 momentum.
Okie dokie.
I think as the captain and Commander Tavine had been looking over the records of the anti-quantum particle and its drop, I think Turn has been at this warped piece of metal and is also going to see if they can get anything from it, even if it's just like like the memory of the memory. Almost, I think they'll, if it's possible, pick it up in their hand and kind of turn it over in the hopes of getting anything from this.
So the piece of metal itself probably weighs close to about, I would probably put it somewhere in the vicinity of a little over 3.5 tons.
It's like a
okay,
whole
so I don't
thing.
turn it over. Yeah, I don't turn it over. I touch it.
No. I'm telling you this because since you clearly didn't know just exactly what you were looking at, it's a good chance to remind everybody what it is. It looks like it looks like a large chunk of hull plating that has been peeled back and warped. It's about the size of thickness wise, considering that it looks like armored plating on a hull of some kind. Visually, it's difficult to determine exactly what its original mass was. As it has been warped and pulled back, I would say it's about a quarter of the size of a shuttlecraft.
Okay, so I definitely don't turn it over in my head.
Yeah. But you can move over to it, and it's easy enough to touch it and run your hands along it, the metal itself has been so damaged by whatever energy did this to it that there are currently no obvious sharp points to touch on the area where it has peeled back. The place where it looks like it's been sheared off is a different story, but at least where you put your hands on it, it's easy enough to run your hands across it. And again, just like Jaren, you do not sense anything. No memory comes flooding back to you. Nothing immediately happens.
Shakes their head and turns back to the rest of the group, to Alia. I'm not getting anything. You might have better luck, but I'm not sure how we'll be able to replicate what happened to Cadence if the antichronoton concentration is dropping. There's no way for us to add to it to bump it back up. At least as far as I'm aware.
Well, if I recall, there is one other spot. Jaren is going to make his way to the area in the Jeffrey tube where the ship first encountered the anti-chronotons to see if that is still the case.
Okay, so you all head over to the Jeffries tubes then?
Did Valia want to check the thing out first before we go?
What would you like Valia to do?
Well, it sounded like she wanted to look at it, and we got distracted looking at data.
Yeah,
so if
she's still behind. She is not breaking any rules. She's still very much behind the holographic tape, just listening to you guys talk and taking in everything that's happening.
Just gonna look at her and go, you can make your way across. I'm pretty sure the captain won't say anything about it.
She smiles and steps through the blue bands of light and makes her way over to the piece of hull plating. You see immediately she seems to furrow her brow a little bit as she approaches. And she reaches out and touches the metal. I don't know what to make of this. She runs her hands over it and says, I don't know. It's strange, but the feeling I have when I touch this, I don't know how to describe it. It's like it's almost like, you know, when you've the only way I can think of describing it is, have you ever had somebody recommend you like a story to read or a book or something, and then you just kind of forget about it, and then one day you're in the store and you come across the title and you think that's the one that they were talking about a long time ago? It's kind of that sort of vague familiarity.
Yeah.
But you've never seen it before. I don't know how else to describe it. What are these variant particles that you keep talking about? Is it relevant? Is it something I should know about?
that's what I was trying to get the data up for her so that she knew what we were discussing. That was the point of that. But I think Tiffany did get distracted before that happened. So
okay.
I will give her kind of the readout on what we know about them.
Okay. She goes over to the readout and takes a look at it. And oh my God, that's amazing. 1 second. One second.
Okay, but only one.
Time's up.
Okay. This is wild because I wanted to know if I had Valia's character sheet perchance. So I went and did a quick search in my drive and it pulled up I Remember Part 3. And I am now scrolling through it real quick just to see if...
Careful there. There's some very disquieting people in that episode, as I recall.
Yeah. Okay. You see, she narrows her eyes a little bit and she looks at the data and kind of cocks her head a little bit, starts reading it a little bit. variant anti-chronotons.
Best we can tell.
I'm not really a scientist, but chronoton particles are something to do with time travel, aren't they? Or don't they? They're particles that can move backwards through time.
Theoretically, as if these are not the same as what we're used to seeing, but yes, generally speaking, they'd have something to do with time or movement through it.
That seems to get her attention. When she starts making that connection, she says, I really don't know how else to say this, but one thing I can tell you is that my people have a certain relationship with the flow of time. We can perceive it in ways that other species don't. And sometimes we know when there has been, or even when there might even be a change happening. And I can't help but feel like somehow this is all linked. I just don't have enough knowledge about particle physics to be able to really contribute meaningfully beyond that. And about that point is when Sharon raises the idea of heading to the Jeffries tube. And then there's a chirp on the communicator.
This is Jaren.
Cadence basically lets you know that there is a holographic Klingon waiting for you all to come take a look at.
We'll be there shortly. We're just taking a look at the hole in our Jeffries tube.
It's on. Sorry.
What was that?
14? Is that what you're looking up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out which deck it is on compared to the holodeck.
I should probably give you this. The USS Pride has 34 decks, and I've got them all listed. I've typed them all up. So y'all are currently on the main cargo deck, which is deck 21, towards the aft of the vessel.
There's a spot on deck 14. Okay.
Yep, spot on deck. Also, the same deck as the lower sensor platform, and just above the photon torpedo launchers. So on deck 14, y'all are going to be actually seeing a lot of repair crews currently. Some of them stepping in and out of EV suits as they are coordinating with some of the drones that are just outside the Pride. You see a bunch of the engineering staff and some of the Starbase 16 engineering staff nodding to you as you guys are headed out of the turbolift on deck 14. It's easy enough to access the Jeffries tubes. You have to input your command codes, Captain, as right now the Jeffries tubes are all sealed off for engineering crews only. But as soon as you tap those in, opens up. In the crawl space, though, as you guys are crawling down into the crawl space, looking up ahead, Captain, you notice you're not alone down here. Sitting in front of the panel, eating what looks like probably some kind of Andorian lunch that would be the equivalent of a sandwich. You see Avrali is got their feet kicked up onto the wall right next to the panel. You see a bunch of science tools that have been kind of sprawled out, as well as a tricorder. There's some music being played, and it looks like they're just looking over a data pad, and they're completely oblivious to you all as you're approaching. Is this Andorian just kind of just nomming on something as they're just scrolling through the data pad?
Jared is going to very softly tap Raleigh on the shoulder.
The jump causes the splaying of antennae out in opposite directions as their head impacts on the ceiling of the Jeffries tube. And they sprawl over for a second. It's enough that it actually causes, in that brief moment, actually causes Valia to squeak a little bit in shock and surprise. But as this all takes place, Avrali immediately recovers and sits up and says, "Oh, Captain, hello."
Hello. I didn't expect to find you here.
Ow, 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 ow. Like it finally sets in, like the aftermath. And you see them just antenna between their fingers and white hair just kind of pressed up against their head as they just go, one second. One second.
It's okay. Take your time. Breathe through it.
They start tapping their feet against the wall.
Do you require a hypo spray?
Do you have one?
Can I spend a point of momentum to have a
Yes.
hypo spray?
Never go in engineering crawl space unless you've got some kind of emergency medical equipment, especially if you're going to be messing around near the plasma conduits.
Yeah.
You
I would
pull out
like
your
to-
hypo spray.
I would like to
And-
give a hypo spray
Or
Sorry about your rally, Captain. I want a hypo spray.
Oh, that's nicer. That's certainly nicer. That means okay. I'm back.
Can I ask what you were doing here?
Oh. When sensors are down, this is where I go to think. I like being around mysteries.
Huh.
They just, I don't know. They kind of energize me a little bit. It's like plugging into a battery. Not literally plugging into a battery, but it's just nice to be close. Plus, I've run about, well, they pull up their tricorder and says, this is my 54th scan of this particular panel, so I've been tracking it. Trying to gather some data, you know.
Jiren is going to pull out his tablet and make a requisition request while they're already working on the Pride
Okay.
to make a little nook in this area for Raleigh so that
Okay.
like to soften this area just in case they're
I'm
here.
patting.
Yeah.
While you're doing that, Arvali leans over your shoulder and smiles at Volley and just goes, hi. Hi. Love your dress. Thank you. And your blue matches your blue. It's very nice. Thank you. Did you need something, Captain? Did you need to move through here?
Well, yes, and I needed an expert. We're going over the mystery that is the anti-chronotons. I was hoping that the phenomena that occurred with Commander Cadence might be able to be replicated so that we could all have our memories restored, but it does not seem to be the case.
I think I have an idea.
Well, I happen to be in desperate need of ideas, so how fortunate.
I think that if there's a proper charge, that it's possible to reinvigorate the particles. Remember how we accidentally cloaked that smaller piece of debris that we brought up to the holodeck when we were running a scan? We did that accidentally because we activated some of the latent antichronoton variant particles in the metal piece itself. I've been running a lot of diagnostics on that, and I've also been asking around in my spare time. And I have some theories, but they're all pretty, I guess Pavin would call them wacky.
Well, no one knows the true profit of basic science until we need it. So let's just say that I'm happy you're doing the work. We do have all of the information in regards to the degradation of the hull. And we have the data of...
Wait. Degradation of the hull. What do you mean?
Oh, this is very fortunate indeed. And he's going to look to his crew to inform Raleigh of what we discovered.
Yeah, I'll cue in on the chronoton apparent degradation over the past however long since it started.
They take a look at the data and goes, deep inhale, and they just go,
Is it a familiar arc to hear, perhaps?
no,
No.
it's degrading.
Do you have any idea what that might mean?
This one isn't.
That is fascinating.
Interesting. I was gonna say fascinating.
The power source.
Save it for you next time, Captain.
Thank you.
They start thinking. You can see Avrali going into their mind palace. The Andorian starts to tug on their antenna for a second, and then So we haven't been able to recreate the experiment we did in the holodeck when we accidentally cloaked that piece of metal. It's because it requires a very specific power signature. Oh my gosh. I think I'm coming up with an idea. However, before this comes out of Avrali's mouth, I, above the table, so that an NPC is not solving your issues, but I am playing the genius that is Avrali appropriately, I'm going to require an expenditure of determination, not determination, but momentum. For the supporting character, y'all are going to have to spend an aux point to make this supporting character activate.
Heck yeah.
Do it.
That sounds good to me. Yeah, do it.
Okay.
What if we just said no? What if we were to like, nah?
Actually, no.
No, I don't think so, actually.
Oh, yeah. Love it.
If you did that, Avrali would pull an Eric and be like, I have an idea.
Bunnies, bunnies, it must be bunnies.
Yeah.
I've been sitting here thinking that.
Whatever
for
it
like
was,
7
I'm sure it was a
minutes,
good one. I'm sure RIP idea, brain derailed, no survivors. The end. Okay.
Who's
Avrali
saving us?
Yeah, he's
looks
saving us. He's walking points.
Avrali looks absolutely like their head is going to explode for a second. As it almost looks like you can see some of these this mystery that they're obsessed with start to click into place. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Somebody roll me a 12-sided die, please.
Ooh, let's see.
If you would. Activating for Ox Crew.
Roll. I got a 7. Zim.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That is going to be S Shock 22. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for activating our Ox Crew and spinning that point. Avrali goes, because it's an old ship. And this panel hasn't been updated.
23 years since last maintenance, if I recall.
That was before my command. He just looks back at the civilian.
Avrali raises their hands and they stole power supplies from the colony. Old, outdated power cells. Why would they steal them? Remember? The report,
Yes.
mission report came back from the away team that those people just stole these old, outdated power cells from the away on the away mission.
For compatibility?
I don't know. But when it's not near a power supply of some kind or is feeding off some kind of energy, it's degrading. This one's in front of a plasma conduit that hasn't been upgraded since the Pride's original refit.
Huh.
There's a connection here. This is huge. I don't know what it means.
Do we have specs on the power cells that were still? We had asked for like intel
do.
about them. Can
Mhm.
we see if the years line up? If like the era of equipment we're using?
That's easy.
aligns?
I mean, you're a senior officer. It's easy enough to pull up the profile of the away mission on your data pad. So as you bring up the details to it, the specs, as stated before, they iron out to like post TOS era. So they are old power cells. They would be literally just a single generation before the Excelsior class came into service. But
It's not identical, but
not
near.
identical, but they're also using a lot of some of the same rudimentary the design and the power that it was channeling, very, very similar, but not enough data on them from what you scanned.
Yeah.
But you see it probably go, oh, this is really big, Captain. Something with anti-chronoton variables that's activated. We can actually, it makes me even more weirded out that this got down here in the first place. But I mean, if that piece of metal is a piece of a hull of a ship in the cargo bay, then it means that it's entirely possible that it's like a I don't know, like a splash effect or something. I don't know. More data is required. I'll have to figure this out.
I'd like to go back to your original theory. You mentioned something in regards to charging the chronoton. And with the discovery that we've made here, we can see that this is never degraded because it has a perpetual energy source. So if this is enough to keep this chronoton stable, the energy source that we can track here, would that not suggest that we would have a way to charge the hull plating that we have to recreate the phenomenon that happened with Commander Cadence?
Not only that, Captain, but if we are able to verify that a certain power source is what's activating these anti-chronoton variants, we might actually have an ability to shut them off.
What would you require in terms of resources
Um,
to charge the hull plating to match its condition on the day of Cadence phenomena?
charge the hull plating. Well, I would want a controlled experiment in a lab before I did that. If it, say, perpetuates the expansion or even the release of these bizarre anti-chronoton particle variants, you could accidentally remove yourself from the timeline.
Sounds good. I'll get you the lab. You set up the experiment. Anything that gets in your way, let me know. I'll get you past it.
Okay. They immediately turn and start shoving food into their mouth, the last bits of their sandwich looking thing, and just immediately start folding up everything. And then they plant a kiss on the metal grating of where the plasma conduit is and immediately start heading in the opposite direction, stopping, crawling backwards, getting the device that was playing music, and then taking it with them again as they continue to crawl down the crawl space on the other, to the other side of the Jeffries tube.
Riley, one last thing. Good work.
Starts to crawl away. That's actually a good stopping point for a 10-minute break. And when we come back, we can jump into the holodeck and see if more of this mystery isn't going to get unraveled this episode. We'll be back in about 10 minutes, y'all. Don't go anywhere.
Woo!
Welcome back to the Last Excelsior. We're going to pick up in the holodeck, talking to Commander Cadence as y'all are standing in front of this holographic representation of this Klingon. The scene opens with Valia staring in shock at what you've created. She moves up to it, walks around this woman, and you see she points and says, computer, there's a 6-centimeter scar on the left side of her chin here. And could you show that to me? And it appears. You see the small, as soon as it appears, it clicks with you, Cadence. You've seen that scar too. Little detail that you just now remembering. Oh, kind of enhances your memory of what you're seeing.
Yeah, she did have that.
I know I've spoken to this woman. I definitely know her. She is a member of a great house. She fought in the Dominion War. She's a colonel. So she led more than one ship. The Klingons have no memory of her at all. And again, she glances over at Chalk. And Chalk says, nothing we have seen indicates that there's any record of her or her house. And there's no registry of her ship either. The fleet doesn't have it registered that there is a missing ship. All have been accounted for or assumed lost, but none under the name that she has given us for hers.
You said she fought in the Dominion War.
You see, Valia turns and says, I'm sure of it. I'm sure she told me that. I don't remember how, when, or what the words she used, but I'm certain I've had that conversation with her.
I turned to Taeon and Jaron. There would be a battle that didn't make sense. A Vorcha class, you'd notice.
Definitely noticed it going missing. at least in the records.
Can I attempt to remember, like, see if I recall any battles that don't make sense that a Vorcha class would be the missing puzzle?
That would be a huge search that would probably take a whole scene, but yes, you could look to see.
Would creating a trait on it help? Like, would that be something that, like, it's top of mind?
I'm not sure how creating a trait would help.
Like, because I am a historian or because I study battle tactics, I recall this.
Didn't you do all the like logistic, like like you were in strategic command or something?
Well, let me think here. You could. So what you could do if you created a trait, what you could do is you could, by creating a trait, you would essentially lower the innate difficulty of any of the roles that you'd be making in relation to what it is you would be looking for in that scene. And because you were a tactician at Starfleet Command, then I would say that yes, you would definitely have the ability to access battle records of engagements that Starfleet was directly involved in, and whatever intelligence that Klingons were sharing with you, as well as the Romulans were sharing at the time. Those two is where it gets a little dicey, because it's entirely possible they're not sharing everything, but that too could also lead to you using your connections or whatnot. It would really start coming down to your reputation as a captain.
Oh,
and your which is a central part of your character and how you've conducted yourself as an officer, and a little bit about your background and stuff like that. Yeah.
So every one of our upgrades, I have leveled up his reputation. So I am at max reputation.
You're at max reputation?
Okay. I'm at reputation 5.
Reputation 5, you have an exemplary record, including numerous commendations and decorations for acting above and beyond the call of duty. You are the finest that Starfleet has to offer, and you've given greater discretion, and you're given greater discretion in the over the course of your duties, right? You're thought highly of. Okay, cool. One sec. Let me just read up real quick on how this is going to come into play. Task commence, persuade. Yep. Oh, cool. Okay. Oh, okay. That's easy. So it's basically you use your reputation and place your department number. Obviously, you cannot do this if you distinguish yourself. Tempting. Okay, cool. Gaining reputation. Right. Okay. So, yeah, basically, you'll be using this as your. You'll be substituting this for any, like, if you want to gain access to Klingon records, you might have to contact somebody in the Klingon Empire, or you might have to gain access to somebody maybe perhaps you interacted with when you were coordinating with the Klingon Empire. Same with the Romulans. If you're going to gain access to any of their fleets, you're going to have to talk directly to their governments. But Starfleet, you're covered. You can access, especially because given your clearance during the Dominion War, you would have access to pretty much every engagement Starfleet was involved in, including engagements that were classified.
Right.
On the books, of course, because they all are, but classified.
Makes sense with who I was working with.
Yeah.
Okay, so what? So should I create the trait?
Yes, but the trait would need to be specific. Like maybe you have a friend in Starfleet, calling upon an old friend or something like that. Maybe you're calling upon the admiral, calling in a favor, that kind of thing.
Connected.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know this is cool, fun backstory stuff. I'm going to be calling Admiral William Ross.
Okay. I wonder, is he might be retired by now.
Just for upkeep, that's 2 to create a trait is 2 momentum, and we're in a new scene, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So we're at 2 momentum.
Yes, he's still very much an admiral at Starfleet. Yep, he's still on duty.
So because of the trait I'm creating is because I know him, I can get this information. And I'm just gonna send a message to Ross with the parameters of a battle that I'm looking for, which is I need you to give me data for victories and or defeats the Federation has occurred around this time period in that are anomalies with the ships present and ones where the presence of a Vorcha class Klingon vessel would make sense of the results. Essentially, like I'm breaking it down for him.
Okay, so knowing the admiral's schedule and that you're asking for a favor, basically sending this off as a message to him to receive and then get back to you. We're going to go ahead and make a quick check. So in this case, you're going to be using your reputation in place of your command stat, which I believe is also 5. Is that right? So it kind of doesn't matter here. So go ahead and make your presence command check. And because you've created a trait to do this as well, I'm going to lower the standard difficulty of this and drop it down to 2. So
we have some momentum if you want to spend for an extra die.
I am sitting at 2 determination. I'm deciding if I'm going to do something like that.
Did you spend determination last game? I don't think you did, right?
No.
Okay, cool. Then you're still good to go.
Yeah, I'm going to spend 1 momentum to get an extra die. I'm going to spend 1 determination to turn that die into a 1, and then I'm going to roll.
Nice.
Okay, so that's 1 critical success.
Instead of my command, guess I'm using presence. That would make sense. Roll. Okie dokie. So that will be a 4 and a 9, which will be
5 successes.
5 successes.
Okay.
That's
5
3
successes
momentum back.
is definitely enough to get the job done. You send the message off to Starfleet headquarters. Oh, I'm assuming you're doing this in your quarters during some of the, or perhaps you do this. We actually doesn't matter.
I'll just do it on the tablet, the same tablet that I made the request for Valley's.
That's true. It's easy enough to just give it to a yeoman as soon as you send it on, just make sure that it's transmitted immediately. Yeah. Okay. It is sent. Message is sent successfully. In the meantime, Valia is still just quietly staring at the face of this Klingon woman with her hands together, just trying so hard to piece together how she knows her.
Tavine is going to, I think, be standing like not quite exactly shoulder to shoulder, but nearby, hands clasped behind her back, kind of just like also looking at this person and kind of trying to gauge Valia's how satisfied she feels with this, and it does not seem like she has reached her like what we were hoping she would get out of it. She
notices you looking at her, and she glances back at you, and she just says, "Time. It all has to do with time. It's the one through line that you guys have been saying since you showed me that piece of metal down on the cargo deck. Somehow this all has to do with time. It's why but here's what I'm trying to understand. I know I've met her, but I can't remember. But I know that I've met her. And that seems to be something that Commander Cadence also experienced."
They did get their memories back, though. You didn't.
Yeah, I can't explain that. I don't know why that is.
My initial theory had been that perhaps she was out of time. If she was in the wrong place, I suppose, in time.
Or
But if
she
you
is
say
now.
yes, exactly. She is now. But if she fought in the Dominion War, maybe she has been for a while. How certain do you feel with your extra listening that a mind meld may be successful in helping you retrieve whatever memories you may still have?
Thalia shrugs. I'm not sure.
Can I attempt one last thing?
What do you want to attempt?
If the party is okay with it, since I'm already kind of requisitioning things,
Mhm.
I would love to give Raleigh everything that they need to run the test about charging this particle to recreate the phenomenon that happened with Cadence.
Okay. Real quick though,
Mhm.
Cadence, you looked like you wanted to say something.
Oh, it's related to the Valia scene. So if we want to resolve,
Yeah, I think the Valia. Yeah, because as you're asking the Savalia, she just says, "I don't know. I'm not sure what the mind meld would reveal, if it would reveal anything."
Stated our last one didn't go according to plan. And then I think she pauses. In your recollection, is there any connection to Jem Hadar to this individual? Or perhaps the word echo?
No, none of that feels familiar to me.
We seem to have hit a weird sidestep. While I may be out of practice with mind melds, it was exceptionally odd. Something that came from neither myself nor Taeyeon. We thought maybe it had something to do with her, but
She seems lost on that. Thinks about it for a moment.
worth a
maybe
try.
try remembering with my own normal, boring human neurons.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to make something of an intuition check, Eric,
Okay, yeah.
because I'm the person who has the memories of
Mhm.
being on the ship. And she explained to a small extent what her deal was, how she had been, deliberately kicked out and so on. I'd like to make an intuition check about what was going on. Like, that means there's a person who did that to her and her house.
Mhm.
Like, I think there's something I'm missing that I can remember. I'd like to make a check.
Okay.
I think there's a piece I'm not putting together.
So you're basically looking for GM to sort of intuit for you, kind of like what Noir was doing with like creating a trait, but you're trying to put together maybe like a piece of information that you may have forgotten or that would help you with
Yeah,
this.
Kate is credited with the knowledge, and I'm having a feeling at the back of my head.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I would like to do a GM intuition check.
Correct me if I'm wrong, didn't we have, and this, I know we had, did we have something in place in the original Clear Skies campaign where you could spend to literally gain a clue? Do you remember that?
I mean, there's no amount of any meta currency that would
Yeah.
enable me to get a clue.
I seem to remember a game we were playing where you could spend to get a clue from the GM, and I cannot remember. Maybe that was Shield. I don't remember, but I seem to remember that. But anyway,
I mean, if we want to do that as momentum, as an obtain information, that also seems very idiomatic to Star Trek Adventures.
I also think it might have been Doctor Who. I feel like that's a Doctor Who thing.
it might have been actually. Yes,
that was a Cases of Costa Vega Amaranthian system feature. Actually, it also.
But I mean, Star Trek Adventures does offer it up. I mean, moment of inspiration is a determination spend, but I don't think you should need to call upon your. I mean, you could if you wanted to burn your determination, and I would give it to you.
I mean, that also feels idiomatic.
Yeah.
So I can call on my directive from my captain here, probably.
That's
right?
correct. You could call upon that as a directive. Yeah, easily enough because that functions as a value. So yes, and you can spend up to 3 determination per mission. So even though you're in part 1, you've still got 2 more to go, if nothing else. So
yep, 1 more to go. I think I spent.
Oh right, yeah.
Once on this mission already.
She didn't say she was kicked out. She said she was forgotten. It was one of the things that she said to you when she said, "Remember us," and she seemed almost desperate when she gave it to you.
Yeah.
But you definitely feel certain that someone did do this to her. Something happened, not just to her whole fucking ship. The whole crew has been affected by these chronotons that are somehow linked to the passage of memory. Putting the pieces together, Cadence. Here are the bits of pieces that you guys have. Clearly, some kind of energy that expelled these anti-chronotons tore a sheet of her hull plating off. You know that she is acting as though she is exiled. No one remembers her. But there's one variable piece that was just briefly mentioned and has not been brought up since. A small variable that is linked to the away team. There was another ship that apparently she has been tracking that raided that colony for those power cells that she was there for. She showed up hunting somebody. Then she tried to draw you guys out because apparently she witnessed you all have that battle with the ghost bird of prey. Something has happened to her that seems to tie in with what this Alorian is saying and what your sibling just said. She's been removed from her timeline. And it has something to do with these particles that allow things to cloak. Its presence reminded you. And getting any of the information that you've also been given, assuming that the information, I'm going to say since you did burn a determination, which is a big thing on your character sheet, I'm going to assume that all the information has been presented here at this point. That everyone's finding like a senior staff meeting, all your findings has been brought together here for all of you kind of to break down. Yeah. You also know that there's an an aging energy source is capable. Leaving the question is it just that one energy source? And why is it so specific? But it's causing the anti-chronoton variants to react. In short, Cadence, putting all of these pieces together, you're certain that whatever this is the result of some kind of device or weapon. And perhaps she and her crew are a victim of it. Something happened to her, and she and her crew, something has happened to them, and it somehow ties together with this ship that she is tracking or trying to track. And the Pride, maybe she felt like because of the Pride exhibiting the traits that it was exhibiting with this ghost bird of prey, she thought she could reach out to all of you. So she staged you getting kidnapped so she could reach out.
Hardly staged. Definitely did get kidnapped.
Those are all the events leading up to and you being able to connect the dots, because some of these are right in front of you, but there's so much happening which ones are the red herrings. You're not sure where the visions of the mind meld fall into it, but you have a feeling that that might not tie into this. That might be something else because it doesn't seem to be connected anyway, except for the Dominion War. And the Dominion War is the big question right now. Why does that play a role? Where did that come up? And why is that a thing? That there's no information on. That's something that the captain is going to try to learn more about, but you don't have any leads on that one just yet.
Weapon.
But the last piece of info, and probably one of the most vital pieces of info I would give you, is that it's entirely possible that she is out there right now and probably close by. If she thinks the Pride is somebody who can help her, if she thinks y'all the ship that can help her, it's possible she's closer than, and unless she caught the trail of this other ship, but it's possible she might be reachable. You just figure out how if you were going to try to find her again. And keep track of that because you burned a point of determination, which means that's going to go on your personal log for a character advancement.
Yep, but I'll try to use it again. All right.
I'd like to try something, y'all, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
First off, how much momentum do we have?
Currently, I have CS at 4.
4? Okay, then don't need to add that part to it. I'd like to spend an ox point.
Okay, who do you want to activate?
I'm activating the doctor.
Okay, Dr. Selma Conway, you're going to chirp.
No.
Someone, if you could please roll me a d12.
Okay. Well, somebody else can roll it. I wrote it last time.
I don't have any 12s on me.
5?
Okay, then I will roll it again.
Oh, wait, no, Sam
I
rolled.
got it.
Sam rolled.
Oh, okay, never mind. I didn't see. Oh, my bad.
I'm sorry, Sam, did you say 5?
Correct.
I also wrote 5.
This is from Kerrigan29.
That means it was
Thank
meant to be
you.
you, bud.
Okay.
The reason that Jaren is activating the doctor is because after getting kidnapped, I'm certain that it is Starfleet protocol to run every kind of medical scan on the kidnappee that is possible.
Mhm.
If we're seeing degradation in the hull, we've got the hull as it is now and as it was that day. I would like to compare Cadence's scans today to where it was that day. And the day and the time before. We should be able to see if it's a weapon, then that means that it's doing something to somebody. So we have Cadence before being affected, during being affected, and after being affected. We know that Cadence got their memory back. We should be able to see it via the scans.
True.
Okay. In order to do that, you'll have to go to the medical bay.
My favorite.
But
Okay.
yes, you can do that.
Field
Should I
trip
wear
game?
one of the paper gowns?
Probably.
So this is like Clue, where the entire group just starts running up to the next room.
Yeah.
1 plus
All
2
right.
plus 2 plus 1.
So leaving the holodeck, Chalk is starting to lose interest at this point and says, "Look, let me know if you need a ride to Konos or if you want to have another drink, but this is boring. If you find out whoever she is, do let me know. And if she is single, I'm going to head back to the transporter pad."
In a moment of indulgence, Tavine will say, it was a pleasure to meet you, Jock. We'll give him he
looks
seems
at
so
you and
delighted. Yeah.
completely serious. He says, "Peace
Yes.
and long life."
Live long and prosper.
Cadence, you know from your time in the military, Chalk has a deep love and interest in Vulcan culture.
Yes.
And
Oh,
his-
he said it directly to my face. So this is a friend of my siblings, and
Oh,
this would make
yeah.
them happy. Like,
Right, he said it directly to my face so much
yeah.
throughout the Dominion War.
As he walks away, you see Valia she's got this like smirk on her face and kind of rolls her eyes a little bit. You all start heading to the medical bay. She mutters something under her breath.
What's she mutter? What's she muttering, Eric?
What does she mutter?
Yeah.
You think you hear her mutter, "I am so his beard."
If Cadence heard that, the Vulcans definitely heard it.
When you guys reach sickbay,
Yeah.
Dr. Conway glances up as all of you come into the room, and she goes, "Well, I mean, I appreciate the enthusiasm. I have been shouting at everyone to come to sickbay for their mandatory checkups, but I didn't expect you all to do it as a group. However, body doubling has been shown to increase productivity levels and hold people accountable on schedules. So I applaud you, Captain."
What can I say? I listen to doctor's orders. But before we get to that, I couldn't help but notice that and he's just gonna do the whole spiel about Cadence getting their memories back, the scan that was run once they return.
Exposit.
Yep.
Dr. Conway listens, and when you finish telling the long story, she goes, "Interesting. Also, hello. Hi. I'm Valia. All right, Commander. I know this is one of the rare times where I'm actually going to get to run another scan on you, so go ahead and have a seat."
I'm not even difficult. Plonk.
Vulcan eyebrow raise.
She moves
I didn't
over,
say
picks up her
anything.
tricorder, gets her secondary scanner of the medical tricorder, and goes over and starts immediately scanning Cadence. And as she does, just kind of passively says, "To Aeon, how's your arm?"
It's working fine. Nothing that I need to report anyway.
Feeling good?
Yeah. Thank you.
How's your head?
I'll be sure to let you know if anything goes wrong. Head, other than being very stressed about whatever we're dealing with right now, fine.
Mm-hmm. And looks over at you, Tavine. Any headaches? Any other emotional outbursts from the mind meld?
Have I had headaches?
You tell me.
I think so. Right after the mind meld went sideways, I did say Tavine was going to go meditate, and that's something she does. I mean, she's just she ascribes as best as she can to how she understands Vulcan Vulcan things to work, and that's a thing that she has actually found quite a lot of comfort in. So I do think she has been meditating more than usual in an attempt to regain control. So I think she has been okay, a little maybe jitterier in general, but I think she has been keeping it
Okay.
okay. So she'll say unsettled, more so than usual, but no pain to complain of.
You are at a slight disadvantage having not undergone Kolinar. It means you're going to be a little more vulnerable to the emotional states, but I think you both will be just fine. There we go. Scan complete.
Just fine.
She starts putting it up on the view screen. Immediately enters a quick code, so you see only relevant information come up. All other bioscans that are relevant only to the patient and doctor information is hidden from everybody else in view. And you just see particle readouts and samples taken start to read across. Anybody with any kind of medical knowledge will spot what she spots immediately, which is there is a slight anomaly. Huh. Wouldn't have caught it if I hadn't compared it with the previous scans. And she brings it up and says, "Well, Commander, you are exhibiting signs of somebody who has definitely come in contact with some kind of temporal variable. Specifically, you are roughly 32 minutes younger than you should be."
Back to Ensign already.
If only.
We have all of our records in temporal science to thank for this kind of exactitude, but it's curious that it's not all of your cells. Your body is catching back up. according to this, your aging process has been realigning itself. So if you experience any moments of dizziness or anything, do let me know. But you'll be just
course.
fine.
Who else in this room right now? Just the player characters I see here in Valia?
And Valia, yeah.
Okay. None of you will ask which tissues have the cell. Like, what's the clue? Like, come on, Cadence can't do it. None of you. Hey, Valley.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, thanks.
I
Var.
just move my mouth and you say the smart thing.
I think we should spend another ox point to have there be a nurse, like an assistant
Just
in the
walk
room who
by
asks for Sam's peace of mind to be like an assistant to like.
No, I have to live with this.
No, I think
Like,
it would be fun.
I told myself it would be
And you
okay if we did no science in our player.
But I like
I have
shouting
to
out
live with
Ox
that
Crew.
now.
I like shouting out Ox Crew though. It would be a fun spend of an Ox
I
Crew.
chalk it up to this. I simply chalk it up to this. Anytime I've had a conversation with Star Trek cast members, they've all told me they're really excited about our game, but they want to play an RPG that's not their job. And whenever I think of all the push that I pushed Sam, now's your chance to finally play a science officer for the Last Excelsior, and their violent pushback, I'm thinking it's the same thing. This was Sam's chance to not play their job. So I totally makes sense to me. Totally
Not biting me on the ass at all in this moment.
No, watching
Yeah,
you
no.
go through the discomfort of wanting to ask relevant medical and scientific questions about both astrophysics and medicine is hilarious.
I'm glad.
We can see now.
I offered the
Doctor?
Ox Point. I'm just saying.
Latest episode of Main Contains Science up on YouTube now.
On the next episode of May Contain Science, how does the human body react when its head is about to explode? Because
That would depend on the cost. We should get back to it.
Okay, do we know if that has anything to do with the encounter of the black hole we had, or are we saying this is definitely the anti-chronic?
Dr. Conway pipes up immediately and she says, actually, I can confirm that Commander Pavin was actually successful getting the warp bubble established when the black hole came into contact with the USS Pride. Funny thing about singularities, because of time dilation, warp bubbles are usually what protect us from such things. In this case, as emergency procedure, when the shields went up and the sensors detected the oncoming gravitational force of the singularity, it immediately activated its warp bubble, protecting everybody here from time dilation. Unfortunately, that would not be the case if anybody else came into contact with it. We're lucky, though, that the peregrines also have the same basic function. So warp bubbles were established on each peregrine, also protecting you from the time dilation.
So it must be related to this Klingon command and the whole situation then, that you're younger.
It's possible, but it's hard to say, because if this Klingon commander that you're talking about, if she is somehow, I don't know, removed from time somehow, and that's when you hear a gasp come out of Valia, and she says, cloaked.
Yeah.
She's cloaked from time. Have you ever seen the ship uncloak? And you said that this particle thing turned invisible when you ran energy through it?
Yes.
How does that happen?
Well, she's not the one stealing power supplies. That other ship is. So
Yes,
it's not like she's actively trying to keep this up.
An old theory we discussed back when we first encountered the hull piece was some sort of temperamental or unverified cloaking technology, but this seems less intentional and more thrust upon them. So maybe the same concept, but
so this is, I feel inclined, because of how many moving parts there are, and because the determination was spent to at this moment recall for the players a piece of evidence that you were also given many episodes ago. where Avrali specifically stated that they were starting to become convinced that you were seeing the results of technology that is far beyond and far more advanced.
Yeah. Yeah, it was we thought it was intentionally attached to the hull or something.
Does this mean, are we looking in the wrong direction? Is it not the past but future?
Conway puts her hands up and she says, I can answer any of your medical questions.
Sorry.
I'd like you to
Yes.
run a scan on me as well, Dr. Conway.
All right.
What Jiren
Shoot.
is looking for is Cadence is the only one that had memories returned. So if the anomaly of being 32 minutes younger is something that is unique to Cadence, that is another symptom that is specific to that occurrence. If Jiren also appears to be younger, then that is something that is most likely affecting the entire crew. It has nothing to do with the memories returning.
Okay. She runs a scan on you. Takes her a few moments. Does the same thing, begins to feed the layout up onto the main screen. There is no obvious variable whatsoever that pops up on the screen from any of your previous medical scans. You don't see that there's any kind of time variance.
Could
Well,
it
that's
have
interesting.
occurred from being on the vessel? The vessel itself lets off some sort of residue, but for variant antichronotons?
That would have shown up on the scan from when Cadence was retrieved.
But maybe it's just the effect. It doesn't necessarily come with them, but they were affected by it by being on the ship. Clearly. Or perhaps by leaving it.
All interesting theories. I am going to immediately take the data that we've got here with Cadence's permission, that is, and I would like to give it to Avrali. Avrali's been thinking about this problem longer than anybody. Any additional data is going to be useful.
Ship's records will show Avrali occasionally falls asleep in the Jeffries tube and wakes up just in time for their shift. Okay, you transmit that to Avrali. Avrali, you hear a chirp the moment the data is sent to their pad. Just received the data, Captain. Thank you. I'll get back to you in just a moment.
Avrali, one more thing. I'm going to have your shifts covered. I want you working on this full time.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, aye, sir. Captain?
Yes.
Could I request putting together a small science team of Ox crew to help me with this?
Let me say it again for you. Any resource that you need, any red tape will be cut. You tell me what you need, I got you.
Thank you, Captain. I'll assemble a list and start putting together a team right away.
All right.
Okay. Dr. Conway folds up the medical tricorder and says, anybody else?
No, that'll be all. Like, Jared is going to very quickly leave the doctor's office.
Okay.
Tavine says, for efficiency's sake, since I'm already here, if I'm due for a checkup, like the Vulcan.
Wait a minute, Captain Cadence. And she goes back to her desk and comes back to you both and says, visit the doctor, get a lollipop.
Oh.
She hands them out to you.
Can I get the purple one?
He hands you the purple lollipop.
Like, he is so happy.
Lollipop.
With that, she does a quick scan on you and says, I'm seeing evidence here that you are under a little bit of stress, but everything else looks fine.
Is there any reason to believe, Doctor, that engaging in a further mind meld would be hazardous to me while
Dr.
I'm recovering from the last.
Conway folds her arms together and she just goes, I'm going to be honest with you, Tavine. Vulcan mysticism is something that medical science doesn't fully understand. And I can certainly give you a hypospray that might help you relax and maybe help you focus. But when minds join, the experts are Vulcans on that one, I'm afraid.
Odd to know that I seem to have been better at this when I was a child than I am as a fully disciplined adult, but
She shrugs and says, you'd be surprised. There's a lot of things that we're better at as children than we are as adults. And that's largely because as we grow older, we tend to let things get in the way. Especially in the case of something as, well, mental as connecting to somebody with a mind meld. Often, like the creative process. What is it, that old saying? Writer's block isn't where you can't think of anything to write. It's where everything you write you think sucks. It's because we're getting in our own way. Maybe some meditation might help you.
noted. It's up for discussion as a possible
Well,
course of action.
I'm here if you need me and if you want some observation. I would certainly recommend it, given that the last one seemed to be upsetting.
It will likely be done here if it comes to pass. Thank you, Doctor.
So, Tavine, will you be mind melding again?
Unclear. As I said, it's a possible path while we look for answers on this lost memories conundrum.
She nods and says, it's entirely possible that these aren't lost memories. As
Also,
somebody who specializes in the very fields of medicine, specifically dealing with the brain, what we do know about temporal mechanics and timelines, it gets very complicated, but it's entirely possible that they're not necessarily missing memories, but an awareness of a memory that you never had, if that makes any sense. And it could
so.
It explains why Valia is able to have such strong feelings about this, because it's been medically documented that Elorians have a strange relationship with the ebb and flow of time that we've never been able to fully understand.
They're listening, I believe they call it.
Valia smiles at that. But Dr. Conway says, it's not, what I'm saying is it's not entirely guaranteed that a mind meld is going to reveal anything. It wouldn't be a missing memory. It would be a memory that never happened. You might just be aware that something is gone, but in our time, it might be gone because it was never there. I don't know how else to explain it. Think of it sort of like an echo.
I look at Taeon. I mean,
Yeah.
And she goes, did I say something?
Maybe. What we saw in Taeon's mind melds, the figure neither of us recognized. They said echo.
Well, she sets her tricorder down. That could have been your subconscious talking to you and letting you know that you've experienced something. But again, I'm a little outside of my field now. When we get into temporal mechanics, it's definitely a thing that I'm fascinated by, but how it affects us biologically and psychologically is something that we're still learning about. Mostly because Starfleet has done a pretty vigorous job keeping this particular field under very close watch.
Makes sense, I suppose.
Temporal manipulation is becoming easier and easier to achieve as our technology advances. And after the incident with First Contact, Starfleet has been very careful about how much information is getting out. Still, I do have access, and I could look into some of the recorded files from Starfleet Medical if it would help.
At this point, it might be. we're looking for something that may or may not exist. So covering our bases wouldn't hurt.
Well, I don't have any other projects to do except for bother everybody about their checkups since the Pride's in dock for the next 2 weeks.
I'll pass around your message.
Not
Not sure how successful I'll be, but
Don't worry about it. I've already got station staff who are friends of mine in the medical facilities on Starbase 16. They're going to handle it. If anybody wants to visit Club 61 again, they're going to have to do a medical test first.
effective.
Don't worry. You're all off the hook here.
Good to
That's a
know.
relief. Thank you, Doctor.
Of course.
I would like a lollipop. You've enticed
She's already got
me.
them in her hand as she's hands it out to the two of you. All right. As you all leave sickbay, Valia pauses for a second. You see her energy, so sort of like sadness comes over her face. Where are you all headed right now? What's the next step?
I think Jiren was heading to 6-1 to just grab a drink. Like,
Okay, to sort of decompress and compile everything you guys have learned.
Cadence is going to the hangar bay with their lollipop.
As you all walk to the turbo lift and give out the different deck numbers before you all split up, Valia, she just says, Klingons' family and honor, their house, it's also important for her to be cut off from that. To be completely forgotten. For a Klingon, that's Greythor. There's nothing worse than exile.
Yeah, she was pretty messed up about it.
But an entire Klingon house. She must have been the head of her house, I suppose.
Talked like it like she was.
She does that, doesn't she?
Do you think it was a technical erasure? Erasing from time seems hard to do by accident. It seems like something you want to target someone for.
She just gives a big shrug. She says, I can't put it all together. I managed to figure out some of the pieces here, but the why and the how, that's what doesn't make any sense to me. For a moment, I was thinking maybe she accidentally did this to herself if it was tied together with some kind of cloaking device, but it doesn't sound like that's the case. It sounds like this was not in the plan. This sounds like it was something that was forced. The turbo lift doors open. Captain, you've arrived at your destination. Before you all break up, what do you all want to say?
Whatever happened, I bet that ship stealing power supply knows something about it.
Maybe the next step would be trying to find out what star systems in the area carry old power supplies.
You have to be
Get
close
ahead of
by
it.
to the colony.
Yeah.
With everything that's going on the Romulan border, I'm sure nobody's looking to find out what's happening out here. Well, out there, I should say.
We have a number of leads. I trust all of you to continue advancing them. For the record, I just want to say that I'm proud of this crew. It's gonna smile.
Thank you, Captain.
We're proud to be your crew.
Give it time, I'll disappoint you.
And that.
And that.
Only 32 minutes. Dang.
It was really nice meeting you all. I'm going to head back to the starbase as well, unless you need me for anything else.
Thank you for
Hey,
following us around on our
Adventure.
adventure. Yes,
I'm glad
kinder
I
than
got
what I was going to call it.
I'm glad I've got some answers, but I hope you'll keep me posted about what you find out.
Don't forget about us. Will you?
She smirks and says, apparently it's very difficult for me to forget about anybody. But this will be an easy thing to remember for sure. With that, you guys separate to your various decks and locations. Captain Valia follows you back over to Starbase 16. When you guys, the two of you, step back off this transporter pad, she stops as soon as you guys leave the main transporter room and step out onto the main promenade. This huge, cavernous, beautiful room with Federation flags hanging about. It almost sounds like an airport as you hear like announcements constantly happening over the intercoms and shuttlecraft coming and going, Starfleet officers and people from every species walking across the decks and having conversations. She pauses and she looks at you and she says, I'm going to be on Starbase 16 for a little while longer. I'm chartering a shuttle back to Earth to stay for a bit. But then after that, I'll be at your disposal if you need me for anything else. If I can help.
Thank you. I think we may end up needing it. Pleasure working alongside you, and I hope you enjoy your trip to Earth.
She smirks and says, thank you. She extends her hand and says, clear skies, Captain.
He takes her as clear skies.
And with that, Valia turns and walks into the crowd of civilians at Starbase 16, all headed to their various destinations, all arriving. A mixture of cultures coming and going, a hub in the galaxy where everyone is intermixed onto their business and slowly vanishes into the crowd. A few moments later, Captain, you find yourself back at the club. It's, I would guess, a little later in the day, but the club is still not spun up, as it were. It doesn't get really busy until the next shift starts.
He's going to spend most of this time just reading more on this Cardassian fellow that he was researching before.
Joret Dahl, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently he kind of falls off the map a little bit after the Dominion War. He starts helping the Cardassian people with reconstruction, but at some point he ends up out on the fringes near the Romulan border at this random trading colony. It's not unusual to hear about Cardassians relocating. The Cardassian homeworld itself was in horrific shape after the Dominion basically carpet bombed the entire planet when they realized the Cardassians had betrayed them at the Battle of Cardassia. So it did not end well for Cardassians, particularly those who were standing up to the Dominion. However, the reconstruction of Cardassia is going quite well, but a lot of Cardassians have moved away from the homeworld for a while to sort of build life elsewhere. You're kind of getting a profile of him, Captain, as you're reading. This is probably a guy who needed to be away from that for a while. I mean, he spent his entire life trying to prevent that war from happening, and then it happened in the worst possible way, as wars tend to do. So you're definitely getting a kind of a personality profile of this particular Cardassian.
I am going to lean into the value, focus on the big picture, and I am going to take a look at wherever this guy has shown up. Do any of the locations correlate with places that would have old power sources?
Looking for any possible threads to see if this is tying into the things that you've experienced. There's simply not enough data on his journeys. It would have been a hotspot to think that perhaps Cardassia, during the early days of rebuilding, where pretty much any resource that could have been spared was probably given to Cardassia to help rebuild, including older power cells. But he apparently didn't stick around very long. So you're not really seeing. If you want to make a roll for this to kind of get any more information to get some kind of finality to it, I would say make a reason command check.
Gotcha. Let's see.
Set the difficulty at 2.
Reason commands. I have to roll under 15. Not 26. Stop that. What are you doing? Sorry, roll is being weird. That's why I still had that thing. Okay, here we go. That is that is 1 success.
1 success.
And a complication.
I'm gonna just record that.
Profits.
No, you don't really see any correlation between anything that's happened. There doesn't seem to be any kind of through line.
Gonna order another ginger ale. It just kind of it's that guy at the cafe that is just staring at the laptop and not typing anything on it. It's just, I am going to make sense of this. I am going to solve this puzzle.
Yeah. And you sit there just chewing on it. Ginger ale is brought. As we pull back, Jaren is just sitting there fighting a battle right now as he's trying to weave to see if there's any kind of connection to this, or if perhaps this is something all him. Looking for those answers to try to figure out what it is. Does anybody else have anything? You were heading to the main shuttle bay?
Tavine would like to follow Cadence, actually.
Okay. Subtly or not subtly?
No. Like I'm like walking next, like shoulder to shoulder. Like she decides to get out of the turbo lift when you do, and is like walking with you.
Slows down 2 steps, 3 speeds up 4 steps.
Yeah, does is like looking off into the distance and is like a half a beat behind you, but like continues to match the face, like as though this is rote. And she says, she asked you to not forget, right? Very desperately, it seemed.
Yeah, sure.
As though she didn't think you would? But you do. Is there any merit in trying to let her know that you do? Not that I know how to find her, but maybe she can give her answers directly if she knew that you remembered.
It seems like a good time for us to arrive at the shuttle bay.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
You step out into the shuttle bay.
If you were like a ghost in a haunted house and only one person had ever seen you, would you haunt them?
Your only method of communication, hypothetically, since you died. Yes. You think she's still
Maybe
around?
she's out there, haunting.
She's waiting. She wants to know if you do remember.
Worth a try. I'm signing out a shuttle.
Okay, and you walk over.
Not a peregrine.
Oh, what?
Well, because it's 5 more days.
I know.
5.
Just as you, a shuttlecraft?
Excellent.
Oh, tell me about it.
Okay, so
this freaking Vespa.
Okay, I can't not do this.
Oh, I'm hoping this is what I think.
I can't not, because we're at the end of the session, and I can't not activate that complication.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
There we go.
Oh,
Tell me story.
that's too good. Okay. Okay. You see, you sign out a shuttle. Ensign just nods and says, "There you go, Commander." Hands it over to you. You see one of the shuttles available to you. The ramp is down. lots of crew in here, people coming and going.
Am I joining you or covering for you?
No, if I get in trouble, I get in trouble. Only question is, do you want to hunt ghosts with me?
It is an apt descriptor. I was looking for a way to poke at it, but no, that if you'll have me.
Yeah, I want someone else to be witness to how this thing flies.
I'd be honored.
The shuttle pilots really just fly these.
Not the most efficient. I love that. I think these two both have like an equal disdain for shuttlecraft. Like
100%.
It is the exact middle ground of like the things they don't do.
The things you don't appreciate. Sure.
Yep. Ugh, all right. But I also think when we get in, we just pilot co-pilot by
Literally, yeah.
instinct.
Yep.
It's just we hate these shuttles. We fly them
We
perfectly.
fly them.
Yeah.
All right, greatest pilot in Starfleet. Let's see how you handle a shuttlecraft.
All right, second greatest pilot in Starfleet. Let's go.
Okay, y'all. You pile into the Type 6 shuttlecraft.
Via protocol, are we getting like? Is this like? Are we genuinely? Are we like?
No, you know, like watch any senior staff can just constantly sign out
That's
shuttles.
fair. I
Like
just
they
didn't
do
know
it
if
all
we
the
needed to
time.
like tell
is-
somebody.
And I signed it out on purpose.
That's true. Yeah, that's fair.
And I'm the CAG.
Yeah, that's true.
Typically, you have to file like a flight plan or something like that. The truth is that again, Star Trek is very much run like a space navy, but you guys have latitude. You're senior staff of the Excelsior, so no
Let's
one's
say
gonna,
there's a flight plan on the forum. It said just vibes.
and it's also worth pointing out that like the wing commander, the CAG of the only flight group on the ship is signing out a shuttlecraft. Even if there is some trouble that can be had here, ain't nobody gonna stop y'all. So
yeah, I just have like I have always caught on the like Caitlin doesn't know protocol, but Taveen would like. So I just always wanted to
I'll
double
put it
check.
this way. If this was a television series, Star Trek, you're not going to get in trouble unless something bad happens
That
and
happens.
the plot requires you to get in trouble.
Totally.
Because that's how the show always worked. You can do whatever the hell you want until the plot said, "Wait a minute, you're
All
fine."
right, then
In
we
this
vibe.
case, it's not out of character at all to send out a shuttlecraft. Depends on where you're going, though. If you guys warp out of the system and not tell anybody what's up, then that's technically going AWOL unless you tell somebody, unless you file a flight plan and stuff like that. But it's up to y'all. It's totally up to you. I'm following you on this. But you guys depart the shuttle bay, the main cargo bay of the USS Pride. As you depart, you see that she is currently docked alongside space dock. You are having to pilot out at a very slow speed to start cadence because of how much activity is going on outside the hull of the Pride. Personnel, staff, you can see people just moving up and down the hull. You see a lot of little worker bee drones moving about the hull and doing scans for the microfractures. You can see you're getting a good visual, physical glimpse at the physical damage done to the Pride. She got chewed up good, but speaks volumes to how tough this ship is. I mean, she is a battleship, so she was designed to take enormous amount of punishment. But again, the ship is 80 plus years old and got hit with a black hole, and she's still in one piece. Y'all are pretty impressed. As we're wrapping up, think of this as where are you headed, Cadence? Are you about to warp out?
I feel like that would be going from Santa Monica to downtown in a tricycle. Like that's warping in a shuttle.
No, not necessarily. It depends on where you're headed.
Well, no, just because they have incredibly low warp.
Yeah,
so like if I wanted to go anywhere.
Yeah, it's
like
true.
No, so I think like given that the hypothesis is we might be haunted.
Uh-huh. You want to put some distance between you.
I'm going to start, like clear the starbase, but not the system. But and this is gonna go hilarious badly. I think I should scan for neutron signatures.
Okay. So as you all fly out into the black to begin to scan, to put some distance between you and the starbase and get, some alone time with the stars, but also see if you can't signal that you're out here. The one thing that neither Cadence nor Tavine noticed when you all boarded into your shuttle and started bantering back and forth as the ramp to the shuttle was raising. The one thing you didn't notice was the Tellarite Bav penned.
Oh my god!
Slip over the top of the ramp and into the back of the shuttlecraft as it closed up behind the two of you. And then using a smaller frame, hunker down.
That better be all of your threat, Eric.
And start listening.
Oh god.
As you all exit the shuttle bay.
It better be every single threat you had to get back to that motherfucker on the ship with us.
That is going to be where we are going to stop tonight's game session of the Last Excelsior.
Do we commit, Maroon? Anyway.
Federation News Services wants to know. That's going to wrap us out tonight, y'all. We will keep you all posted, but the next game of the Last Excelsior will not be this next Monday, but the Monday after. Next week is Noirville here on Althaven. And then we will also have another episode of Big B and Dash that is going to be taking place on our Discord for our supporters and followers. And thank you to everybody. We hope you're enjoying that show over there as well. Yes. That's going to do it for us tonight. As a quick reminder, I got a comic coming out Wednesday. Check it out. We will see you all next week. Until then, friends, hailing frequencies are closed.